Hi, it's Joe and Jimmy here, about to do a summer bash edition of Show Me the Money Rugby League TV. Again, no Mick Gledall. He's disappeared for, I believe, the fourth week in a row now, so that's fantastic, Mick. If anyone's found him, I believe he was out in Leeds last night taking pictures with every single rugby player known to man. So we have found him. It's just he's on a tear and he's not to be stopped at the moment. But yeah, Jim, how are you doing today?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, bit tired after 7 games in 2 days. 7.5 actually. I saw the second half of the women's game as well.
Yeah,
but long weekend.
Long weekend. No, the summer bash. So it was a good weekend in Hull, I'd say. There was a lot of interesting games, obviously a lot of talking points, but we'll just go through them organically and start with the first game, London v Sheffield. Jim, what was your thoughts on the game?
London started really well. Even from the warm-up, they looked like they were really up for it. They're coming off the back of a good few wins, aren't they?
Yeah.
And certainly good few performances, even leading up to the wins. Under Mike since he's taken the reins, and they started a better team, but then the second half Sheffield it was a bit scrappy, the latter part of the first half, and then Sheffield came out second half and blew him away. Highlight of the game was the last minute.
Oh, I've heard about this. Yeah,
Tyler Dickinson puts through what I've said is the best kick I've seen at Headingley since Sinfield's 40-20. A little perfectly weighted curling grubber kick.
Oh, got a curl one.
Oh, curled it round. Yeah, Bish couldn't believe it. And but Mark Aston always says that Tyler's always doing it in training. He's always putting his kicks in, and he says at some point it will come off, and it was perfectly weighted. And Bish got his try at his old stomping ground, which was nice for him.
Brilliant.
They were impressive in the second half, Sheffield. London just ran out a bit of steam, I think.
I think there's definitely. I think London, from all that I've seen of them, they've got a core of a good team there, haven't they? And I think Mike's definitely showing them off to their full capabilities now. And no offence to Mike and S&C, I think a few clubs might be interested in him if he doesn't end up keeping the job at London. If he wants to have a go, I'm sure there'll be opportunities there after the.
Well, when he first got the job, I spoke to him and he said he's doing it because he loves the club and he wants to help him in any way. He doesn't necessarily want to be a coach. That might have changed over getting a taste of it for a few weeks, but. He loves what he does as an S&C. He's been at a number of Super League clubs and he's got all his family down there. He is a man of the club and he's just trying to help him out. And I think because of that and all the players respect him so much and know he's coming from from a genuine place. They've turned it around. And they're really strong in the middle, aren't they? Like Bianek had a great game again.
Yeah, he's been brilliant this season. Whenever he plays, he makes a massive impact every game. You can I'll rephrase it. You can tell when he doesn't play.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and I think to be fair, Mick picked him out as his championship player of the year so far, didn't he? A couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So they're and they've done enough now, haven't they? I think that's they know that they're safe, barring a minor miracle off someone. So maybe Sheffield wanted it a little bit more.
Brilliant. No, Sheffield, and then the next game, obviously. Probably the biggest margin of difference. The Batley v Dewsbury, it was 60 to Batley and 60 Dewsbury Rams. What was your thoughts on that game, Jim?
Well, that was Batley coming off a defeat down in London, and you knew there was going to be a reaction. Although I made my way over to behind the sticks for that one, sat with a couple of the players and the whole Keithley team were there, having a couple of light beverages, I'd say. Very much enjoying themselves. And Dewsbury came out flying, scored in the first few minutes and looked like, hey, up, this could be on. And then next thing, Batley found the stride and it was tough to watch in a sense, having a soft spot for Dewsbury because Batley were just relentless. Yeah. The dead ball area at Leeds is small, isn't it? The goal line's small, but I think at one point we had 2 or 3 repeat sets, getting dropouts and just absolutely destroyed him. Simple as that. They just destroyed him in every sense. Luke Hooley, there's a lot of rumours about Luke Hooley's future, isn't there?
Yeah. Some surprising ones as well.
Yeah, he's had such a good couple of years, hasn't he? And he had chances to leave last year, but he wanted to stay and keep all the lads together there, and they've had another great year. But there's a serious amount of interest, and without getting too into rumours, there's strong rumours about Leeds Rhinos coming in for him. So
don't get us in trouble. But.
I was well, you're not telling what we've heard on the grapevine, but so I was interested to see if he was thinking this could be my new home. So it was no surprise when he had another big game and popped up with a try. So yeah, it'll be the next couple of weeks. See where lots of championship interest. Batley obviously keen to keep hold of him, but it might be the time where he's just got to that level where he's too hard to keep hold of, and he's ready to take on the next challenge wherever it might be.
I think Batley shows, as we were saying before the show, how important, obviously especially in Championship Rugby, the way they run the teams, how important squad retention is. I think a lot of teams, obviously, as you all know, have massive squad turnover every year, and Batley, as you said, for the last couple of years, it's a very similar team year on year with one or two additions every year, and you can see the benefits of doing that, where they definitely don't spend very much compared to some of the big hitters at the top. They don't make the big name signings, do they?
No.
But they keep the squad together, and they've grown organically into a very good championship team. Yeah.
And there's no doubt about it that Lingard's an absolutely top class coach, is there?
Yeah, I think
that's I think everyone's in agreement with that. But it shows his job is easier by keeping the same players together. So many clubs, their first pre-season was really short this year, and then they're spending 6 weeks before the team knows how to play together. Whereas Batley's strategy over the last couple of years, keeping, like you say, retentions, and sometimes some clubs, they might want to retain players and they can't. Sometimes clubs might decide, well, we need changes, and they put themselves in that situation. So, but it shows it works, and across all levels, if you've got a good group and you can keep them together, the coach's job's a bit easier because they're constantly just improving and getting used to structures and systems, and they've. I just hope they can keep it going next year as well, because I feel it's just going to get harder and harder.
I think Craig showed him. I think now he finally gets his respect, doesn't he? I think before he was always the unspoken about coach that probably was one of the best, but never really got his credit. And I think now this year he's finally getting the credit, the credit he deserves. So it's nice to see. It's nice to see a proper homegrown rugby league coach
Absolutely,
get it. Englishman.
And backing up that, last year, a really good season, but people can easily go, oh yeah, but York had 10 injuries and they would have been there, or, and they can start looking at the other teams, but, he's by backing it up this year when some teams have spent money and brought in big names. He's really cemented his place, and all credit to him.
And the final game was obviously Lee v...
No, we had Bradford Halifax, but...
there's 4 games.
Four games on Saturday.
4 games Saturday, my fault. Sorry, Halifax, Bradford, I do apologise. What do you think to that one, Jim?
Well, I think that's where the stadium started to come into life. Obviously the Sheffield London game, there weren't many in there, and it started to build up a little bit. There was plenty of Fed fans there all day. I think when I rocked up at lunchtime, there was plenty of them gathering, and even I think the first fans I saw white Hayford fans, and I walked past him and I was like, have I got my fixtures wrong? And we're like, I know we're a day early, but we're here for a good time, and there's a lot of the Cumbrians made a big weekend out of it. Fair play to them. But the stadium started to fill up, the atmosphere started to get going. We know Bradford are having a tough time, and there's no way the support was what you'd expect from Bradford. Halifax possibly doubled them in number. They were in that Western Terrace at the bottom, and the Halifax fans were
massive mix on it. I think that would have caused
well, that might be half the reason. But I think Mick could hold his hands up and say that, and Halifax got off to a good start, so obviously the fans were straight in there, and Bradford were probably like, oh god, here we go again. But I suppose the positives, it's the most fight I've seen from Bradford in a number of appearances. And Bradford fans will rightly say, well, that should be a given. We shouldn't be getting too carried away because some of the lads who've been letting themselves down and letting the fans down performed a bit better, and probably for longer periods. But they had too much to do. They had chances, but yeah, I think Halifax always just had a bit too much of a lead, and when it didn't quite come off for Bradford. And perhaps the most worrying thing is George Flanagan was so entertaining to watch because he's so passionate in it. He was jumping, like a big hit went in after it all kicked off, and he was jumping around like a madman, celebrating the tackle.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that passion there, and he's great for that. But in that incident, there could be one of their players who might not play again this year, from what I've seen on.
This year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I think you're talking. It looks like a gouging. It blatant looks like a gouging incident, deliberate, accidental. Who knows? But if they lose that player for the rest of the year, which 8 games minimum ban, I'd imagine could be another massive hurdle for Bradford. So some positives, but will the Bradford fans be happy now? They've lost to Halifax. So. Yeah, and then it was on to the big one.
Yeah, on to the big one, the Leigh Fev. So obviously Leigh beat Fev 46-16. That's a big, not a statement win because they've already made that statement win, I think, earlier on. But that another block in another block, and that I think even Max said that Fev showed plenty of fight and art, but they lost They lost a bit of hope there. I think it's tough for Fev, innit? Because they've invested so much, but then when you've got Leigh bringing in spending the money they are, I think it was very close on the spending. I think now Leigh have took it to the next level and outspent Fev. So
yeah, it's cemented everything we've been saying over weeks, haven't we? And what everyone's been saying, Leigh have. And I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to Tom Lynham, but Fev have invested heavily in Tom, and he's obviously got a great CV behind him and career behind him. But Leigh have invested heavily in Blake Ferguson, and with respect to Tom, they're on very different levels, and that sums it up for me. That's the Fev are making a huge signing, but Leigh signing is a totally different level, And the man for me is, I mentioned to you before, Kai O'Donnell, the Leigh back rower. He had to come on really. He was on the bench to start, but Leigh got an early injury, and he came on for me, that was the performance of the weekend by a mile. He was absolutely phenomenal, and I looked into it a bit more afterwards, and I think he's come over here, and I'm from Liana, and apparently his missus is struggling to settle, and I'm not sure he's going to be someone that they keep hold of. But if they do, for me, he'd based on that, he'd be my number one priority. I know they've got a Pape over the line, and they've got Ferguson over the line on a 2-year deal now. Lamin, but he would be the one. Well, we only get 7 spots, don't we?
Yeah, I don't think they'll be.
Yeah, Phil Bate. Yeah, he was superb. And the Leigh fans, easier when your team's winning, but they packed out that stand. I saw a few of my old friends from there who were there for having a good time, and everyone was expecting that Leigh would win by 20 points or more.
Yeah, I think an interesting one is that it seems like the difference between the two might be how they've kept all the players hungry. Leigh have made signing on signing, and the ones who aren't playing look hungry, and the ones who are playing are trying to keep their spots. I don't know what. Obviously, I don't know the inside the team very well, but it looks like everyone, like you said, subs coming on, playing like with that much passion, even though they're beating most teams. By 50, 60, obviously even beating the second place team there by 30 plus, and they're keeping
healthy competition.
Is
that what you mean? Like,
but my counter would that be like, where Fev, it seems like it might have gone the other way a little bit. I hope that's not...
Well, Mick's been bleating that for weeks, hasn't he, saying that he doesn't believe that the Fev camp is particularly happy, whereas that Lee camp...
That's what I mean, so it'd be interesting to go into the difference of why that's the case. What is it? Just because Lee are now favourites to win, so everyone's happy, everyone's trying to secure the place, and Fev are panicking, or that I might have explained it there, but obviously I think a big one factor is all the news coming out. Maybe if I don't listen, try not to listen to Mick as much, but they say that the Fev inside the camp isn't that happy. They're not all together where Lee are fighting every single player, even the ones on loan, playing awesome, trying to get back in. Yeah. It's they've somehow managed that spectacularly. So fair play to Lammy and
Chazzy.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Earlier in the year, I was adamant that Fev would top the table. You know, and that the fact that the final would have been a coin toss, but you know, it changed so much with Lee's signings, and it's so much easier, aren't you, for him to be happier when that's gone on, and they've got a bigger budget and made more impressive signings. I think the good thing for Fev was the start of the game. Leilua got a try here to bounce back quite early on, and I really felt, this is on. You kind of thought Lee would, you know, end up a couple of tries better. I couldn't see Fev getting within 2 tries of him before the ball was kicked, but Fev started well. The 2 red cards, as soon as that happened, when Lee had already started to, you know, take the game by the scruff of the neck, I thought then, well, that is a real nail in the coffin. Fev were not at full strength. We need to say that. Lee were full strength, as good as. Fev were definitely a good number of players out, and the Fev fans probably knew that. And the way it started, it was like, well, this is, for all things considered, this is great. It goes to 12 against 12. A Pape's on, innit? And it's like, if there's ever a game set up for him just to run riot. And he,
phenomenal this year. Yeah. He's going to be a super league.
And it looked like he was trying a little bit hard at the start, and he was trying to almost do too much, but then, it was... But you listened to what Max said, didn't you? And he's saying that we need to lose to him to realise what we need to do, and and it's still going to come down to, it probably will come down to them 2 playing in the final, and 13 against 13. I've been saying for months, haven't I, that yes, I've got Lee as massive favourites, but you only need one sin bin and Fev to capitalise and get a couple of scores in about 10 minutes, and Lee to feel the drain him a bit, or a red card, and then it's game on. But I do think Fev need something like that. I don't think 13v13 Fev can beat him. I just don't see it.
You're saying that like it's a shocking statement, Jim. I think 99.5% of people would agree with you.
Well, yeah, but weeks ago people were saying
I'd
that.
Say months now after the 1895 Cup. I think it's been pretty cemented. Lee strong favourites now, aren't they?
Yeah, but I think a lot of people think that Lee could beat him with 12 men. I still think Fev, if they showed enough early on...
You've got a bit of hope. You've still got
I do think they need a good few things to go their way.
And then and then we're on to Sunday, and the first game, my fans of the day, even though they lost, I think more my fans of the day, even though probably Whitehavens might have been better, but they did win.
They were loud, weren't they?
Were Widnes came to party, they came to have fun, and they give it as John Keir said in his interview, they give a very good dig. I thought they played very well. Barrow just had, I don't want to say too much class, but they had just a couple of moments of magic that I think changed the game, and that's in games that are that close. I think that's all it takes. A bit of Jared Sammett breaking through the line. Yeah. One of the best steps I've seen this year, and it's all over, isn't it?
And that was a similar thing. Who I was sat watching the game with, and he was like, "Widnes will win this," and I was like, "I'm going to take Barrow simply because I think this year they've been the best 80-minute team every game. I've seen them quite a lot live, and they've been on Premier Sport a fair bit. They never give up, and they'll keep going. And Widnes, you could argue they've shown evidence that they can have a soft underbelly throughout this year, and there'll be some games where they'll switch off for 20 minutes or they'll start to, to slide, whereas Barrow won't give up. Samet, every match he's either going to do something and it's not going to come off and the other team are going to score, which he did in that game. He passed it literally to Lewis Roberts, who scored in it. But then he'll make up for it and he'll either score himself, and then you've got Maludi, who was also capable of coming up somewhere, and that's exactly what happened. Maludi gets an intercept, puts T. Ritson in again, and the game's dead after Samet's made up for his error, and yeah, they just kept fighting, and that's what we've done all year. They are undoubtedly, for me, the overperformers in that division from what most people expected. I think most thought they would be not in the relegation battle, but probably just hovering above it. A few points safe, but not challenging playoffs. And now they're cemented in the playoffs, and they deserve it because their effort has been superb.
Yeah, they, like you said, the whole game they just never gave in. Widnes looked like, obviously, I'd agree. Yeah, Widnes looked like they just had enough, and then just a couple of moments of magic, it were all over. And I think, as I said, fair play to the Widnes fans. They were loving life. They were partying.
Yeah,
they made the day for me, along with the Whitehaven fans. To say they ended up losing, it doesn't. They came to have fun, and that's what the Summer Bash was all about. So, fair play, Widnes, and it was a good game, and probably really exciting game. I took my girlfriend who was from America. She was enthralled in the game, to be honest. In the first one,
it were really topsy turvy, wasn't it? The Barrow Widnes,
you didn't have a clue.
No, I'd like to see the stats. I don't think there were that many completed sets in that second half. It was almost like, right, momentum change, and the next thing an error or something a bit different, and it was just in the balance for ages until
exciting rugby with a bit of class. It was. I think that were it. So. Yeah, fair play to that game. That were brilliant, and then to the Whitehaven v Workington, the old Cumbrian derby. I loved it. To be fair, the Whitehaven fans, like you said, partying 2 days straight. Looks like it sounded like they were 2 days in. There were about 10 tops off in the crowd.
Yeah, we had the drum out. I think we had Wagataurus over there banging the drum for 20 minutes.
They were on it, to be fair, and that's what the Summer Bash should all be about. They would have won, my fans today, but they won. Widnes lost, so I'll give Widnes a bit of a push. But Whitehaven fans, wow, brilliant! Thank you for that. It was brilliant to watch. You watched the whole. You were in the game before. You were there for the Barrow Widnes. I think you might have disappeared afterwards though, but you're probably about 10 too many pints in by that point.
Long way home as well.
Long way home. I think a lot of them stayed out Sunday night, Jim. If you don't mind, I've heard they took over Leeds City Centre last night.
Yeah. I've just heard the same. Speaking to one of the Workington players, and he said Revolution in Leeds was just like a big Cumbria on tour.
Yeah.
The Barrow, Whitehaven, Workington lads all in there. Lots of fans making a weekend of it.
A big party in Leeds for the Cumbrians.
Yeah, I'm sure Mick Gledhill was probably in the middle of it somewhere.
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, I think that's.
But we were a bit split. We were a bit. I was team Work, you were team Whitehaven in that work, where we had a little bit of a. And I was hoping.
Well, only because I've got.
For our reasons.
I have one of my own players that I help out with playing for there, so I wanted him to do well.
We had a bit
I've got love for both teams working.
I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying.
I'm not letting you drop me in like that.
No, we had a playful rivalry during the game. I also love both teams, but the hope for Workington, they've had a horrible 2 weeks with everything going on off the field. So I was really rooting for them because I just felt they deserved a result against their big rivals, and it wasn't for lack of effort. They were brilliant, And there was a moment in the first half where Alex Young looks like he's scarred and his little toes on the whitewash. If that goes in, then I think that game stays tight right until the finish. Worky get the first try of the second half and bring it back to a 2-point game, and then Whitehaven maybe just that little bit more speed and a little bit more creativity. But Workington's effort, absolutely superb. Everything they've been through the last couple of weeks, all the staff and the players, it for me as good as the performance of the weekend.
Well, it was. The first half was one of the best arm wrestles of the season, weren't they? They were going at it, tackle for tackle. There weren't many mistakes. I don't think there was
it was pretty straight. Yeah,
there weren't many mistakes. It was tough running, tough tackling. You could see both teams really wanted to win it. That I didn't realise. I'd been told obviously how intense the rivalry was, but I didn't realise until I saw him on the pitch, heard the crowd, watched the. I was sat just in front of all the executives going at it. It was It were on.
It's passionate, isn't it?
Yeah, bloody more than what I even realised myself. So it were brilliant to watch. And then the second half, obviously, like I said, Whitehaven probably just had a bit too much work key. Sadly, obviously, if you don't know what's going on, they've had some off the field financial issues, so then I think they've lost a couple of players, a couple of important players around the team, so sadly I think that were probably the big difference. I think they just didn't have the same firepower that Whitehaven had throughout the whole game. I think Whitehaven subs made a massive difference.
They're a bit quicker, weren't they? Just that little bit of speed.
I think just both needed a bit
perhaps.
Bit more like creativity and
but all things considered, like I say, I think they were. I'm struggling to think of a better effort all weekend than what Workington did.
Connor Fitzsimmons awesome.
80 minutes.
I think to be fair, I can pick out a few Worky players. They had a very good digs, fair play, and then Whitehaven. Obviously, I think you've probably seen on Twitter if you're a rugby league fan. You've probably seen on Twitter the celebrations. It were phenomenal. They were partying for about 20 minutes after. I think a few of the players just stayed in the crowd and started drinking with them and didn't even make it back in the changing room. So, love the party. Hope you enjoyed your Sunday night in Leeds City Centre.
A few sore heads going back over 3 hours. 3 hours back to come here.
And then final game of the day, Newcastle v York City Knights. York, the 27-18 winners. Thoughts, Jim?
Well, I'd like to say it was a great game to watch. I don't think it was. It were probably a bit scrappy. I don't think either coach would have been delighted with the performance. Always felt that York would have enough and they would get the job done. There was a couple of good individual. I thought James Glover was superb. A couple of good individual performances in there, and they got the job done. To use the old terminology. I thought Newcastle. I bet it's been a long weekend. I thought Newcastle, like the defence in the middle of the pitch, was superb. Like rock solid. There was big hits and big. There's the forwards for both sides are top quality, aren't they? And it was brilliant. But then you get to the goal line, and then it was like leaky as anything, and that's what allowed. I think York had 2 chances in that first half and scored from both. So I think that was just
say Newcastle were the better team in that first half. I wouldn't. Hopefully, Ford don't get mad at me for saying that, but I thought Newcastle had. The whole one of them where it was swinging both ways. Obviously, it was only 10-8 in the end of the first half. I think if you judged in on that, you would have said Newcastle got a good chance here. Yeah. But like you said, York probably just better execution. Got it right, and it might even go into what we said earlier on about Batley. York have got a pretty similar. They've got rid of some of the players, but it's a more similar team than Newcastle's team. That's probably Newcastle might be the opposite to Batley, where they probably made too many changes too soon with going full time, and they might have just chucked a bit too much because it just seems a bit scrambled there, doesn't it? The team, they don't quite have that chemistry that you'd say week in week out win.
York's team this year has been pretty solid week in week out, hasn't it? Whereas Newcastle, they've got so many challenges up there, as we've talked about before, aren't they? It's so hard for him to get that, and they're still searching to get it right. But York just had a little bit too much. But I agree, at half time the scoreline was a bit flattering to York because they had 2 chances, scored them both.
Yep.
You felt that Newcastle could come out and make a real game of it, and they nearly did. But York just had a bit too much.
Yeah, I think definitely Newcastle have had some of the best performances in the season, some of the worst. But I think they give a good go, didn't they? They've just got some things to figure out, and they'll get there. I think for next year will be.
Yeah, big year next year for
Yeah.
them, isn't it? You know, they've tried and tried, and and it's not easy for them trying to get players up there, but you feel that next year they've and I'm sure they will. They've got to. Recruitment's huge, and which lads are willing to go up there and actually really commit to that full-time environment. And if I'm sure that Betsy is already making plans and hoping to to just get it that one big step now.
And then York probably needed that win, didn't it? I think it was 2 games.
4, I think.
4. I was going to say 3. You have 4 games on the bounce, then lost.
Yeah.
They needed the win. I think 4D probably one of the toughest 4-game periods in 4D's had in a while. So especially obviously this season it's been pretty good up until recently. So good win for 4D, well done. And and then so Jim, overall summer bash. I think I was there all day Sunday. I've watched most of the things on Saturday. I thought it was great games. Atmosphere up and down. Obviously, depending on the game, depending on which fans turned up the most. Success or not?
Yeah, we want to be positive, don't we?
Positive
I think
Rugby League, Jim, remember positive.
Yeah, I know,
Rugby League.
but we've also got to be honest, haven't we? We've got to be honest. Do I think it was a success overall? I'll say yes, but I'm thinking maybe the better way to try and deal with this is what can be done to make it bigger and better. Because for me, there's no way that was remotely anywhere near its potential of how many fans you can get in. And there was moments, the Saturday was far better than Sunday, and perhaps it always will be because Sunday people have got work the next day, and you'd argue that the average attendances of the teams that played on a Saturday would dwarf the average attendances of the teams that played on a Sunday. So it was always going to be the bigger day.
Well, I can't work out why they didn't. The one thing maybe you can explain, why have they got more travelling teams on the Sunday than the Saturday? Surely they've got Newcastle coming down on this Sunday night. No offence to Newcastle, but they didn't bring many fans, and it's not. I guess it's not on the fans because it's on a Sunday night. Yeah. You can't travel down and travel up. It's a nightmare for work and things the next day. And Whitehaven work, even though Whitehaven showed up and in brilliant thing. How much more would have showed up if it was Saturday and they could have made a full weekend out of it? And then obviously Barrow same day, three Cumberland clubs playing on the Sunday when they could have brought them all down in.
Well, I think this is what would be nice to know. I'd love to know I'd love to see how the meeting went about planning for this event in terms of marketing, fixtures. It's probably 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because it might have been a thing that, right, well, the Cumbrian fans will make a weekend of it. They'll come down on a Saturday and they'll stay for the next day. They might think that we want to get as many fans in on the Saturday by having the bigger fixtures. But I'd love to know, because you look at what the women's football have done and how they've filled those stadiums. I mean, it was a ridiculous crowd at Wembley yesterday, and every game
broke the world record for a Euros final between men and women.
Yeah, 88,000 something was it? But every game they've sold it out or near enough. Now, that South Stand, I know you could buy tickets for the South Stand at Leeds. I think it owes 7,000 or 8,000 the South Stand. But come Saturday, there's no one in it, and there's no one in it Sunday. So they must have decided, because of sales, we're going to shift everyone and try and fill out the big West Stand behind the sticks. East Stand, fans love standing, don't we, going on there. And then they made the main stand get everyone in there. And it still wasn't close to being full. I don't, for the life of me, know why they don't do what England football have done and fill it with kids and local rugby league clubs, and get the amateur clubs behind it, give the tickets away, charge £1 for every kid, whatever, but fill. That South Stand could have just been, this is all about community rugby, and just get them all in, because no one, I was trying to think of it, speaking to a few players today, like, I don't see anyone sat in that north stand after, and I'm not having ticket pricing as an issue because the prices were reasonable. You could get weekend tickets from 35 quid, day tickets from £17.50. I don't think they got that wrong. But if you're like, we've paid for our tickets and we're sat there and we spent 20 quid on a ticket or 40 quid for the weekend, I'm not looking at that south stand thinking, oh bloody hell, they've all got it for free. I'm thinking this is superb. There's 3,000 young rugby players and young rugby fans who are just adding to the experience. You've got Simo and Wagataurus trying to get everyone going, and at times I don't think there's more than 800 in there, and it's a 20,000 stadium. You need that. I know students aren't here at the moment because it's summer holidays, but there's got to be more initiative shown of how to fill that ground. It's not fair that this event, I've not seen what the stats are, but I think on that Sunday, I'm not sure there was ever more than 1,500 in.
Well, that could be ones for the viewers to answer. I mean, community clubs, what parents with children, did you get offered tickets? Did you just decide not to go? Was there any sort of deal that you could have taken? What was the reasons why it wasn't filled out full of community clubs? And that'd be one for the viewers and the ones who are in the community clubs to answer. So please get your comments in. Give us any reason, whether it's as bad as you couldn't be asked to go, or if you didn't even know about it, or the ticket prices. Just be honest. Let's have it, and then we can read it for next show and go through the reasons why. And it'd just be brilliant to learn why it wasn't just full of community kids, like you said, full of every single community club has a couple of players there in the team loving life, I was going to say having a drink, but having a laugh.
Yeah.
Wagataurus, Simo, brilliant host, fair play to you. You had a good laugh, you got the crack, you got the shirts on. You give it your best, but you go to your fair to your lads.
Yeah, but we didn't have... Yeah, and it's a shame because... Yeah, I don't understand how they can not do it. And if they have done it, I'll put my hands up. But I'm not sure they've been round... England football have given tickets to every school in the country. And I know football's a million times bigger than rugby league. But... I don't know if tickets have been given to schools, if they've been given to clubs, and if they've not, then why not? Why is it not full? And I know rugby league fans, there's not many who will watch other teams. When I was a mad Leeds fan, I'm not going to go down the road and watch, even when I were in League, I won't go and watch all game because it was all about one team. And we know that. That's not going to change. There are some who will get there the game before. There are some, but we might be talking, as we've seen this weekend, you might be talking hundreds. We need thousands in that stadium. And you're not going to get...
Yeah, but I disagree.
Let me finish. Let me finish. There's not. Joe, there was not... Look at the attendances when we come out. There is not.
Around me, there were a bunch of fans from every team watching a lot of the games. Yeah,
but you're talking a few hundred.
But that's what a lot of the...
It's not enough. It's a 20,000 stadium.
That's where Champ might be at the moment.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
You can't blame it on the Rugby League does have a very loyal support base that do watch every...
No, what I'm saying is, fans have shown that they will not stay. They might watch half, and some will, but I'm talking, let me finish, hundreds might.
Yeah, but
that's finish.
That's good, though, for that level.
Let me finish, right? Hundreds...
It's not that stressful.
Stop interrupting and listen. Hundreds will, but we're trying to get thousands. So my point is, they've proved fans will not sit there all day in their thousands to watch other games. So we need to get different types of people in, different fans. That's why I'm saying if we want to get that stadium up to 5, 6, 7,000 for the whole day, for both days, we've got to go to schools and new fans. We've got to get the people in because yes, some people will stay a bit longer and get there a bit earlier, and there might be 500 who've done the full weekend, but the attendances will show that it's nowhere near, for me, what the potential could be. And I feel that event deserves 5,000 or 6,000 fans in for all of it. And at its peak, it might get to 10. But to get 5,000 or even 4,000, we've got to hit the schools, we've got to hit the junior clubs.
Yeah, but I agree with you. But
yeah, that was my point.
There's only said that. Yeah, I agree. But
you're saying there's loads of that. There's not. There's a few hundred.
But that's where the game. There was only a few hundred fans. I think the most. It'd be interesting to see what the most team, apart from the Lee and Fev game. What was the most fans that any team bought anyway? I think the most...
Halifax, I'd say.
Halifax, maybe 1,000 or two. Yeah. That is 500 to stay throughout the whole weekend. That is amazing. I think... I'm
not having that. 500 fans for a whole weekend is good enough. The Rugby League got to do more. We've got to get thousands in.
100%.
Right.
But it's tough.
I know it's tough.
I'm disagreeing with your insult on the general fan. I think the fans...
It's not an insult, it's an observation.
It's just getting new fans in, but your observation was that they don't stay. I think a lot of them did. It's just in general, Rugby League Championship doesn't have a massive fan base at the moment.
What I'm saying is, and it's proved at Magic at the higher level, and it's proved at this Championship level, there is a very small amount. Yes, there's some, and it's brilliant that there's a few hundred, but we have got to accept that it's very hard to convince a Bradford fan to watch another game. We need to get different young fans in who will sit there, or lads who want to make a session out of it like we do at 2020 cricket. My point is, there's not enough to stay all day from the current fans. We need new ones, and if we get that number, we need loads more. 300 is nowhere near good enough.
It's not, but that's where the thing's at, and it's more... There's we can get the fans in, but I think my whole point behind it was fair play to the ones who did stay.
Of course.
There was plenty who did throughout the whole day. You probably can't expect them to stay both days, can you?
No, and I'm not expecting them to. My point was, I don't expect them to because we know they don't, and that's why all the focus that the RFL should have done on marketing this event is not trying to get everyone to stay all day, because only some will. Is trying to get new fans to increase the numbers throughout. That's the whole thing. I don't think, and we'll wait till the figures come out, but I'm sat there for the whole weekend and I'm looking around thinking, especially on the Sunday, I'm like, please fill up, because there's nowhere. The last game, Newcastle against York, I don't think there's more than 1,000 in. And it's tough because it's a Sunday evening.
I think, for me, the big ones are the fixture choices that putting Newcastle on a Sunday night, I think how many fans did they bring?
Yeah, but Newcastle aren't going to bring many anyway. That's what I'm saying. We need to get new fans in. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, but we know that. But we've argued over that 50 times. We have a big issue. I don't know how we. My point is, I don't know how many new fans we can bring at this moment, other than getting all the Rugby League mafia to all turn up and like a lot of them did.
Yeah, but I think they did. Yeah,
fans for the whole weekend.
But it's 400. We need to get 5,000 school kids in and 5,000 junior players. That's my point.
I 100%, but it's harder said. That's harder said.
I know it is, but I've not seen any evidence. My point is, I haven't seen any evidence.
Well, let's see what the viewers say. Maybe.
If there's coaches of amateur clubs and if there's any school teachers watching, but I'll do something, and the RFL might be able to answer. Did they try and give away even 1,000 or 2,000? And I'd like to think there's no reason why they can't give away 5,000 tickets, because they're all going to spend money on a bottle of Coke and £8 on chicken and chips at Headingley. They'll all spend money, and it might mean, even if it's £1, even if you go with your son and you pay £20, your child comes for £1. I've not seen any of that. We're on Twitter and social media all the time. I've heard players saying to me, I haven't even seen anything on social media about the weekend. I don't think it's been marketed anywhere near as well as it could have been, and I don't think they've gone doing any initiatives to get people in. If you get 2,000 kids who have paid £1, next year they might have had a whale of a time and they're like, when's a big bash? And if it's £4, they might go next year. And then you might have fans in for a few years. That's how they built up the darts. That's how they built up 2020. That's how England have filled the stadiums for the championships, because they're getting the young fans in, giving them away, or £1, and I've not seen any signs of it. And that's what I'm annoyed about, as you can see.
Yeah, very passionate. I like it, Jim.
Yeah, but it's not good enough. It's not fair on the players. Even the 500 fans who stayed all weekend, brilliant. I'm chuffed out, and they've all had a great time. It's brilliant to see. But for me, there's no reason why there can't be more, and there should be more.
Let's see what they say. We've heard that's a Mick Gledder less passionate rant, and it's brilliant. Wow. And yeah, let's hope if the fans all come back saying, yeah, not a single thing was offered, we've got a serious thing wrong with we've got a serious thing with the marketing of our sport, as you said. So let's hope some come back and say there was stuff, there was others. Let's hope it's not that bad. I guess that's the good way. Let's hope it's not that bad.
Let's say there's going to be barriers. Let's say that at the last minute, the local clubs around the area have been offered some tickets because the sales are nowhere near what they hoped for. They're all going, oh yeah, we've got a game on Sunday. We're playing this weekend. We're doing that. I saw there was a big community club event on. That's what I've
heard. Gone on more than anything.
And so for me, why at the start of the year are they not going? By the way, all you clubs, each club's going to have 100 tickets for the Big Bash, and the club pays us 200 quid for the tickets or whatever, or all these initiatives I've talked about with adults paying and juniors going free, or a club coach can take 10. I saw a bit of it. There's a coach there with a junior, like a duck with ducklings following him, and that's brilliant. But if they let them know at the start of the year, then they go, I'll tell you what then, before we even get our fixtures together, that last weekend of July, everybody is off to the Big Bash, so that, they can plan it. You can't drop tickets on people 2 days before going, oh, I've got 4 tickets left.
I heard, I don't, like I said, it's going to be so interesting to find out. Hopefully we get people commenting, but I've heard the main one is that they've organised they've organised Super League fixtures, they've organised League One fixtures, they've organised community fixtures all on the Big Bash weekend. And I've heard that that's the big barrier, because as you said, they are, well, as any fan is, you're passionate about your team first and foremost, before I can make a comment about the Rugby League Mafia coming together or whatever. You are going to support your team more, and if your team's playing on that day, you're not going to go out, you're not going to watch the Big Bash over watch your team. So I think the fact they've organised other fixtures along with I think the whole, like you said, they can't do that. If they're going to make a big event, it needs to be fixture clear. Oh God, me getting passionate now. They said you can't make a big event for it and then put loads of other games on. It's just criminal. You can't expect everyone to turn up and your team who you're watching, you've heard about this Big Bash, and then your team's playing on the Saturday. Well, you're going to go watch your team. Maybe turn up for the Sunday, but at that point, I don't know. But
well, I think you're right. And look, Keighley, most of the team was there on the Saturday because they were lucky they had their weekend off. But that shows that perhaps if there's a couple of the Swinton lads I saw there on the Saturday as well because they were playing on the Sunday. But does that show that if they're not playing, it's not just the Keighley team that'll be there? Teams might do it as a bit of a day out, And that comes down to planning at day one, saying keep it free because it's Big Bash. We're going to incentivise you all to get as many people in. Try and get you. If you've got a season ticket at Swinton, and you are a season ticket at any League One club, does that allow you then to get a Big Bash ticket for half the price? It isn't rocket science to think of these things to try and get more fans in because money's tight everywhere. I do think the pricing was totally reasonable. Overall, but there's still ways to get more in because I don't think there's many fans that sit there bitter that there's 2,000 kids in having the time of their lives and paying £1 because ultimately ticket prices at championship games are relatively high. You're playing up over 20 quid. It might be 23, 24 quid at a lot of clubs. Those ticket prices will keep going up because the number of fans isn't going up. The more fans you get in, clubs will be able to go, well, we can freeze that price because we're getting more in, so we're bringing more money in. And I don't see any way you do it than targeting young fans and trying to get the next generation coming through.
We'll see. Well, we've got the passion going. We've talked about the Big Bash. Jim's giving a 50-50 on success. So overall, get your comments in. Let's see what obviously the community clubs and all the parents think. So thank you for the Summer Bash edition of the $80. I don't know if that's right. But on Show Me the Money Rugby League TV. Have a good one.